Welcome to episode 49 of the Talking Friars podcast. I'm your host, Ben Fadden here. We got a lot to talk about today. Some unfortunate events happened with Fernando Tatis Jr. shoulder subluxation, the shoulder injury. This is like the fourth or fifth time that he's done it this year, going back all the way to spring training. We have a 4-game series with the Colorado Rockies to discuss. We have Ken Rosenthal to discuss. I talked with him over email this morning before the series finale. You're recording on Sunday. Talked to him this morning about the whole Max Scherzer situation. He replied. He got back to me. So I will reveal shortly what Ken Rosenthal said to me to maybe clear up some of what happened. But yeah, so let's first start off with this Colorado series. They split this series. They're now 61 and 47, still 6.5 back in the division. We'll get to the division placement a little bit at the end of this series. But game one, let's start game one, then we'll go game 2, 3, 4, then talk about the Rosenthal stuff, talk about some of the offensive struggles. Then we'll get to the mailbag questions. So first off, game one on Thursday. Padres won this one 3-0. This was a good, I think, overall game. Obviously, the pitching staff, they pitched well. This was Adam Frazier's first game in a Padres uniform, which feels like, or was it? No, excuse me. No, it wasn't. I was thinking about another game. But it was a clean win. Joe Musgrove was the story here. He pitched really well when they needed him to. There was all this conversation about the trade deadline and the rotation. Do the Padres need more pitching? They ended up not getting more pitching, but this obviously happened before the Padres knew, before Padre fans knew that AJ Preller wasn't going to get any starting pitching. But regardless, I mean, Musgrove and Darvish are the only two reliable starters, and only one of those two guys pitched well this weekend, and that was Musgrove. On Thursday night, 7 innings, doesn't give up any runs, only 1 walk, strikes out 11 on 91 pitches. So to get through 7 innings, 91 pitches, he could have probably went another inning. If this was, a playoff game, or if he really, felt it and wanted to just keep going, he probably could have done that. But 7 strong innings, when you have a bullpen like the Padres do, who's been pitching really well, you just give it to the bullpen and let them work. And that's what happened. Melanson got his 32nd save of the year, league leading 32nd save. Was the Padres' 60th win of the year. That got him to 15 games over 500. It was comforting to me, at least. Talking about, it was comforting after hearing Max Scherzer go to the Dodgers instead of the Padres. This was the game that night where Ken Rosenthal tweeted that the Padres were close to acquiring Max Scherzer. Then a few hours later, of course, that didn't happen. The Padres weren't even close to acquiring him, according to AJ Preller when he spoke to the media on Friday after the trade deadline. They hadn't talked for 7 to 8 hours after that report came out with Washington. And they were only talking with Washington because of Daniel Hudson, who they ended up acquiring. And during the game, it was official after the game, but this was that same day that Scherzer news came down. So it was comforting to me that Joe Musgrove, pitched like a Max Scherzer, and because he has been grinding through some starts, I think, in the past. These recent starts, it hasn't been the crispest, if that's a word, but this one was definitely crisp. 7 shutout innings. Man, if he does this the entire way through, he might see himself pitching game 1, definitely game 2, obviously, but if he keeps pitching like this and Darvish doesn't, you could see, Musgrove maybe getting that game 1 of the wild card. So a good game from him. Tatis had an RBI double, a rope that gave the Padres a 1-0 lead. Jake Cronenworth, I believe, a homer off the foul pole in right field. So 3-0 win. Again, it was very, very just a nice win overall. Bullpen stepped up. Musgrove, stepped up. So just a good win overall. Padres, again, improved to 15 games over 500. And now let's move to the deadline. I talked about my deadline reaction. I gave it a grade. You can go look at that on episode 48 of the Talking Friars podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I gave it a grade. Padres picked up Adam Frazier the Sunday before. They picked up Daniel Hudson, obviously, like I said, on Thursday night. Then they picked up Jake Marisnick, who made his Padre debut on Sunday. in the series finale, playing center and then playing left when Grisham came in the ball game. They acquired him minutes before the deadline. That was not the acquisition you were thinking of. They needed some, bench depth, but at the same time, that wasn't a move you're expecting minutes before the deadline. Usually those smaller moves, they get those out of the way. So if there's a starting pitcher that teams, all of a sudden, want to push really hard to buyers that, someone's available, like Kenta Maeda kind of got available those last couple hours, that's usually those moves you'd see. Teams that, say, all right, well, let's get him, let's make this guy available. So maybe a team overpays for him. So, but that was the surprising move that the Padres made. But again, Frazier, Hudson, Marisnik, I gave a grade on that on episode 48. You can check that out. That was all before Friday night's game, which sucked. And it was pretty, I don't know how to describe it. It was pretty, I'll just say bad. I know that's a general word, but it was bad that hours after AJ Preller and the front office decided not to upgrade the rotation, they decided not to even get a starting pitcher. Ryan Weathers, one of those guys that's on an innings limit, probably one of those guys that is not on the same trust level as a Musgrove and a Darvish. He gives up a bunch of runs, I think 8 runs total, 3 home runs. He was not solid whatsoever. And again, this was not one of those days that you wanted that to happen hours after the deadline. I don't think it made the front office, happy, those moves that, moves that they didn't make, I'll say, sitting there in their suite, seeing Ryan Weathers give up a grand slam in the first to Ryan McMahon, give up 2 more homers in the 4th inning to Brendan Rodgers, a 2-run shot, Connor Joe, a left fielder, who went to USD, by the way, a 2-run shot. That definitely shouldn't have been comforting for the Padres. Chris Mack gives up a homer on the second pitch of his relief appearance to Elias Diaz, who started the game at catcher for the Rockies. 9-4, the Rockies won this game. Again, Weathers only went 4 innings on 80 pitches, 8 earned runs. He hasn't been so sharp lately, and I feel like that's a bad theme and a kind of a concerning theme throughout the rotation. We'll get to Darvish. He hasn't been Yu Darvish, the good Yu Darvish that we're used to, or that we were used to pretty much the entire way through before that hip inflammation injury. Blake Snell obviously just can't really pitch on the road. You can't really trust him. I haven't had any start that I've gone in and say, I trust this guy really, except maybe the first start of the year. And that was just because of what we saw in the World Series and the Cy Young hanging on his mantle. Joe Musgrove's been good, but he's been grinding through starts. He hasn't been his best. He was his best on Thursday, but he hadn't been his best, the last few starts before that. And then Paddack, obviously on the IL, he's been up and down. It's kind of mentally him and Snell. Lamet's still hurt. We'll get to him in a little bit as well. Some injury updates on him. But the rotation just hasn't, you just don't know what you're going to get. And that's really unfortunate right now. And it makes it worse that the Padres didn't go get any starting pitching in the rotation. Again, I wasn't asking for a Max Scherzer. that would have been great. And it sucks that he went to the Dodgers, obviously. But I wasn't asking for that. I wasn't even asking for a Jose Barrios because I know that we would have had to overpay. I wasn't asking for, an Ian Kennedy in the bullpen or the Rangers pitcher Kyle Gibson, because I don't really know how confident I would be in him. This is kind of like a 1-year flash in the pan kind of thing. I was just asking for a Kenta Maeda or a Michael Pineda or a Zach Davies or a Danny Duffy. I know he's hurt, but have him for September, someone like that, just to give innings. And obviously that didn't happen. And I think the Padres are paying for it. Again, 9-4, the Rockies won this game. Padres 5.5 back to start the night. Going into that Friday game, 60-46 was their record going into the Saturday game. This one, the Padres would lose. Yu Darvish on the mound. This was not a good game either. And it made it worse that the Giants won. They beat Houston 8-6. The Dodgers won. They beat Arizona 8-3. So while the Padres lose on Saturday night, that meant the Giants and the Dodgers could gain games on the Padres. The Padres went from 5.5 back in the division to 6.5 back in the division. And so that's definitely not what you want. And every single game that's played, that's one more less game that you have to make up room in the standings. I know they have 19 combined games against the Dodgers and the Giants going through the rest of the season, but these are teams that they have to beat. Going 2-2 against the Rockies, losing the series before the All-Star break, getting swept earlier in the season in Denver on that 1-5 road trip that involved the Mets as well. That can't happen. So I'll get to the Tatis injury. I know that you're probably like, Ben, you skipped the Friday Tatis injury. I'll get to that. But let's just talk about the rest of the series. Saturday, Sunday, Padres lose on Saturday. They're now 60-47 after that loss on Saturday. 5-3. The Yu Darvish was not good. He was not the Yu Darvish that we've expected to see, that AJ Preller, obviously traded for at the beginning of the year. He gives up 3 home runs. One was to German Marquez, a pitch that wasn't even a strike, but it was up in the zone. All Marquez had to do was put a good swing on it, and it went over the fence. And it wasn't even that much of a wall scraper either. It went over the fence by a lot. So Darvish was not good. He only gave up 5 hits, but 3 of those hits were homers. So that tells me it's mislocation. Pitches down the middle of the plate. The Brennan Rodgers and German Marquez homers, those were sliders around 77 miles an hour that just went right in the middle of the plate. The cutter was not great. That's kind of been Darvish's go-to pitch this year, and it just was not where it needed to be command-wise. Now this was interesting. Yu Darvish did say after the game that he feels like he's improving. He kind of compared it to, I think, last year, or it was either last year or 2019, where he got off. He was in this kind of rut, but he kept progressing, and then at one point in the season, he was really good. So I think that was last year because he placed second in the Cy Young, but where he was really good, and so he thinks that's where he's heading. He's been really good at points this year, especially the first half of the year. But that was not the Yu Darvish we saw. Am I worried? No, but I would be a little concerned just because I don't know how much the hip inflammation injury is playing a part in it, that he didn't go to the All-Star game for, had to rehab for. So I'm not going to make any excuses for him, but that's something to look for. If he continues to struggle, maybe that's a reason why. Bob Scanlon, on the television broadcast says that, pitchers are always trying to find things mechanically. You're not always great. And maybe that's just what Darvish is fighting through right now. But his final line, 102 pitches. He did get through 6 innings. So, again, him and Musgrove, when they're not on, they're still going to grind through starts for you. So that's definitely something that's a positive because this bullpen has been taxed. They're the most innings in the majors bullpen-wise. They're getting some good additions. Matt Strom is going to be activated probably Tuesday for the Oakland series. Matt Strom, like I mentioned right there. And then Dinelson Lamet should be coming back. I'll get to him. And then Daniel Hudson should be coming off the COVID IL list soon. Not quite sure when that is, maybe next week, but we'll see. But they should be getting some reinforcements there. But as for this game, 5-3 again, Colorado won. Padres did get 2 runs on the Jake Cronenworth 2-run homer. I think that was a homer in 3 of his last 4 games before not hitting a homer in like 20 plus games. So this is good to see him get some power back, hitting some homers into the Crone zone, as the great Don Orsillo would say. They did score another run in the 9th, but that obviously wasn't good enough. Austin Nola with the pinch hit RBI single to score Jurickson Profar. But the story of this game was Jake Cronenworth, Yu Darvish just not pitching great. Tingler, I did want to get to this. Tingler was ejected on the Profar strikeout looking in the 6th inning. There was the bases loaded, and home plate umpire Manny Gonzalez made a terrible call. I had the screenshot of where the pitch was. It was low and away, not a strike, obviously. That would have made the count 1-2. Now, Jurickson Profar is not Manny Machado. He's not Jake Cronenworth. He's not Fernando Tatis Jr. So he's not one of those guys that is great with runners in scoring position or just great offensively overall. But to take the guy bat out of his hands with the bases loaded, down by 3, that was pretty much the Padres' only great chance of making it a game there. That definitely sucks because the pitch wasn't a strike. I have it. Obviously, you can check it out on the Talking Fire's Twitter account from this Saturday game. The pitch was nowhere near the strike zone. And I think it's stupid that the umpires in Major League Baseball, whoever decided this, that an umpire has to get ejected right just for coming out, arguing balls and strikes. If the umpire knows that it wasn't a strike, and I'm pretty dang sure that he knew that once he called it, why are you throwing out the guy? Tingler hadn't even been out there for 10 seconds, and you throw out the manager. I understand that's the rule, but I think it's stupid that Jace Tingler, the manager of the team that just had their inning over because of your stupid call, they can't come talk to you about it and say, look, that's down. We're going to call the replay room and we're going to affirm to you that that's down. And you're going to look after the game and you're going to know that's down. That's a terrible call. Why can't they do that? I just don't understand that. So I did want to get to that. Padres 6.5 back in the National League West going into Sunday. That would stay that way because both San Francisco and LA would win. 3.5 back of the first wild card spot. And the Reds 4 back of the Padres for the second wild card. That's something to keep an eye on. I know that sucks to say, but the Reds have been playing well. Votto hit like a homer in like 8 straight games or something. You missed like a 9th straight game homer at Citi Field by like a couple feet. They've been playing well, so they made some upgrades at the deadline. So, and with Tatis out, I feel like this might be their little hole where they could come up and maybe give the Padres a scare for the wild card. Now, the Padres, the good news is they are playing bad opponents, which we'll get to. So Sunday game, Padres won 8-1. Not a ton to talk about here because it was a crisp win. There's nothing to complain about, really. Ha-Sung Kim, he's second in defensive run saves in the league this year. He's filling in at short probably for most of the time with the Tatis injury. He did it great, when Tatis was on the COVID IL earlier the year when he had the subluxation in April. He's filled in well. He's great defensively, and he was great offensively on Sunday. He had a homer. He had a 2-run double down the left field line. Jake Cronenworth was another one that had a great game. He went 3 for 4, scored 2 runs, drove in 2 runs with the 2 RBI double down the left field line. Great offensively all around. And it wasn't just Kim and Cronenworth. Myers had an RBI single up the middle. Hosmer, I know people want to bash him, but he had an RBI single or RBI double, that he stretched into a double. A bad throw by Colorado. A good throw would have thrown him out, by the way, but he still had the RBI. And while people are bashing Hosmer, I did want to point out that he hasn't been the problem offensively. He's hitting .444 with a .944 OPS in the last 7 days, entering this game before he had that RBI pinch hit double. So he's playing his part. He's hitting well right now, and hopefully that continues. I know he's not playing as much with the Frazier addition. So when there's a lefty, Cronenworth plays first, Frazier plays second. Kim maybe plays short, even when Tatis is hurt. But he's hitting well. And so just a great crisp win all around. Reese Kinnear pitched pretty well. 1 earned run on the homer by Sam Hilliard. 4.91 ERA entering today. He had 42 pitches through 3 innings. And then the bullpen. What can you say? It seems like whenever there's a bullpen game, they don't blow it. And while I'm never going to go into a bullpen game and say, "Ooh, we're going to win this game," I was so confident because all you need when you go to a bullpen game is one guy to be off. The more bullpen arms that you send out there, like today, for example, they had Reese Kinnear, then Stammen, Hill, Johnson, Pomerantz, Pagan, Diaz. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 arms. That's 7 opportunities for one of those guys not to be on their day. Good, the good part of that, though, is none of them were bad. So, I mean, Tim Hill had 2 walks, but then he struck out 3 batters, all 3 batters he faced in that 5th inning, 24 pitches. So, again, Kinnear, 3 innings, 1 run. Stammen, 1 inning, no runs. Hill, 1 inning, no runs. Pierce Johnson, 1 inning, no runs. Pomerantz, 1 inning, no runs. Pagan, 1 inning, no runs. Miguel Diaz came in 1 inning, no runs. He was called up recently. So, while this bullpen, like I mentioned, should be getting some reinforcements soon. One of those reinforcements that I want to get to, Jason Tingler said post-game, Dinelson Lamet, who's been out, will throw an inning on a rehab assignment on Wednesday for Lake Elsinore, I believe, at Rancho Cucamonga. So that's definitely a good sign, a good, positive news that Tingler told the media after the game. Lamet, I wouldn't expect him to be in the rotation. Maybe he starts games and gets piggybacked with Matt Strahm when Matt Strahm comes back this week. Or he gets piggybacked with the Paddack if he comes back with the oblique injury, or gets piggybacked with Weathers or Snell. Those are all options. Stammen can pitch a couple innings at a time. We've seen that. I think Pierce Johnson can do that as well. So the bullpen, I think, is in a good spot. And, if Tingler keeps using the bullpen, 1 inning spurts like this, I think that's good because they're not going to get burnt out. And I think you might see him towards the end of the season not, use Melanson as much. That's, they have Daniel Hudson for that once he comes off the COVID IL. I think you might see them using Chris Matt and guys like that if they have leads of, 4 runs, 5 runs, something like that, just to give the bullpen rest going into that big September run, which features essentially like all playoff teams. And then the Dodgers, Giants heavily, those last 2 series of the year, which is going to be awesome. Hopefully the division is, not wrapped up by then by a team not named the Dodgers or not named the Padres. So either the Giants, Dodgers, hopefully they don't wrap it up by then. But just get back to my point. The bullpen's been great. That was encouraging to see them they gave up no runs. Luis Canner gave up that 1 run. So 8-1 Padres win, 61-47. Unfortunately, they're still 6.5 back in the division, still 3.5 back, 4 back of the wild card, 3.5 back of the Dodgers first wild card spot, because the Dodgers thumped the Diamondbacks 13-0, and the Giants won 5-3. Chris Bryant homering for the Giants against the Astros, homering to left in his first game in his San Francisco Giants uniform. That's going to suck to see him play against the Padres because he is a very good player who could play multiple positions, very valuable. So again, Padres win this one 8-1, 10 hits, no errors. They left 6 on base. That's okay. They got a homer from Kim. They got a 2 RBI double from him as well. They got a 2 RBI double from Cronenworth, RBI singles from Hosmer, Myers. They had a sac fly as well. So a sac fly from Austin Nola. So offense was great, but it just going to my, series takeaways here, that was not what I wanted, going into the series. You wanted to take 3 out of 4. Again, the Rockies. This is a team who is now, 46-60. They're now 20.5 back of the division. So this is a team that you need to be beating. And like I mentioned, the Dodgers beat the Diamondbacks today 13-0. That's what I'm not saying the Padres have to be beating the Rockies and teams like that 13-0. But what I'm saying is they need to beat the Rockies more than they have. They're 8-8, I believe, this year against 8-8 this year against Colorado. That's not good enough. They should be more like 11-5, 12-4. Because this Rockies team is a shell of what it was a couple of years ago with Arenado and David Dahl, and guys like that. Daniel Murphy, even. I know he didn't perform great, but Greg Holland, Brian Shaw, guys like that. It's a shell of itself. So this is games that they should be winning, and I feel like they might be biting themselves in the butt here because going, at the end of the year and they look back and it's like, dang, we got swept by Denver that 1 series. Dang, we lost the series before the All-Star break. Dang, we only split instead of taking 3 out of 4 because Darvish didn't pitch well on Saturday, and Weathers gave up 8 runs on Friday, a few hours after the front office didn't go out and get a starting pitcher at the deadline. Dang, it's just stuff. You know what I'm getting at here? It's just going back, and it's like maybe these you can cherry pick. I'm sure every team. I'm sure the Dodgers. I'm sure the Giants can. But when you're in 3rd place and now you're seeing. They started, the series 5.5 back. Now they're 6.5 back. They're, you just got to play better. And these are series that you got to win. So let's see. One update I did want to say as well, Mackenzie Gore, fans want to talk about him. He's, the Padres' top pitching prospect. He was the number 2 prospect in baseball at one point, I believe, behind Vlad Jr. a couple years ago. His command has not been great. His mechanics have been off. He's been getting into bad habits this year. It started in spring training. It looked like people that, fans that watched the spring training games just wasn't consistent enough. But Kevin Acee reported that Gore did face batters on Saturday in a game in Arizona, I believe, the Peoria complex. Acee said that the reports from Gore in that outing were extremely good regarding his fastball zip and command. So that's a good sign. Mechanically, he just was not on. He was walking guys, or he was giving up a lot of homers or runs where just wasn't hitting his spots. And if Gore can reach the big leagues somehow this year, man, would that be a positive. Like, even if it's like in the postseason, it's a Ryan Weathers situation like last year. Like, I think this guy can handle it. I'm not saying he can. He's super talented, and it's just been a shame that I'm not ashamed. It's been disappointing that he has, put himself in this situation. He just hasn't been consistent. And this is a guy that I think I was at least, that would be up this year at some point. Maybe that can still happen, but he just needs to be, if he can't consistently pitch great, in the minors, how is he going to do that in the big league? So I think that's what the front office has been preaching to him. And so hopefully all can, he can get his mechanics right. So because we know he can start games, even if he can't, you can, piggyback him with a Lamet or a Weathers or a Snell or a Paddack. That will be huge because we know that we haven't been able to trust a Snell, a Weathers at points. Paddack has been up and down. We haven't been able to trust those guys to give 5-6 innings. So maybe if Tingler and Rothschild say, hey, Ryan Weathers, hey, Chris Paddack, Blake Snell, whoever, give me 3 innings, all you got. We got Mackenzie Gore, Matt Strahm, Dinelson Lamet that can come in after. That would be a huge boost, and that could be an alternate route where the Padres in the division series, hopefully, they get to the division series after the wild card game. If they don't win the division, that would be a pretty good route, in my opinion. Maybe more efficient because the batters, maybe their timing's off against another pitcher. They're seeing someone from the left side, then from the right. It's just something to think about. So it can only help if Gore can get his mechanics back. So again, 2-2 on the series, a little bit disappointing because Darvish didn't pitch well, Weathers didn't pitch well after the front office didn't go get starting pitching. Now I will get to Tatis. I'll get to Paddack with the oblique injury that he had in a bullpen. The first few pitches of the bullpen, he suffers the oblique injury, put on the 10-day IL for Saturday's game. It's concerning because Tingler said obliques can be tricky. You don't know how long he's going to be out. Hopefully it's, a few starts and Reese Kinnear can, pitch well. They can piggyback. Matt Strahm comes back. They can use him. Hopefully that's a route that they go and that, is successful. But how that oblique injury occurred, they're not going to tell us, but my opinion, I would think that maybe Paddack didn't stretch well because when you hurt your oblique that early into a bullpen session, usually bullpen sessions, you're not going all out right at the beginning. That's just what I would think. And maybe he just didn't stretch well. And so that's unfortunate that Paddack's been, one of those guys I think that's given the third most innings in the rotation this year, probably behind Darvish and Musgrove. So it's kind of disappointing that that's happening when the, rotation has kind of been thin, right? It's kind of thin right now. So Reese Kinnear's got to step up. Whoever they want to put in there is going to have to step up. So that's Paddack. And then Tatis, obviously, Friday suffers the injury, shoulder subluxation. I thought he was over aggressive. John Schaefer and Jim Russell didn't really agree with that in the post-game show on the wrap-up show on Extra 1360. I kind of disagree with them thinking that, Tatis, he's going to do this. He's done this all year. That's just the guy who he is. I understand that. There's a point being aggressive and then there's being over-aggressive. And I think Tatis was over-aggressive on Friday. There was an error on I think it was a Machado grounder, the third. McMahon made an error. They were only like 10 feet from the bag, and Tatis wasn't even halfway there yet when I think the Rockies guys picked up the ball and started running to third. So he was easily out. And then just trying to avoid the tag, he hurts his shoulder, pops out, and supposedly it took a little bit more time than what it had in the past, on the swing in April or on the diving play against, I think, the Cardinals earlier in the year, where it took longer than in the past for that shoulder to slide back in to the socket. And so he experienced more soreness than usual, which is a little concerning. But Tingler said after today's game on Sunday that he is improving. And so that's definitely a good sign. He's on the 10-day IL. I mean, Ta-Son Kim, Adam Frazier, Jake Cronenworth are going to have to step up. Hosmer's probably going to have more playing time at first if they want, if there's a righty in and they want to stack the lefties with Cronenworth at short, Frazier at second, Hosmer at first. But obviously the Tatis injury sucks. There's fans on Twitter that are saying, shut him down, just get the surgery now. And it's like, really, that's a really bad mindset, because look, Tatis is the best player on this team. I think he's the best player in the league. I didn't say he's the most talented. That's Ohtani, but he's the best player in the league this year, I think. And it's going to be a big hole, obviously. The lineup gets shorter with, Grisham and Pham struggling. I wanted to get to that. In terms of struggles, entering Sunday, Grisham hitting 199 with a 647 OPS in his last 42 games. since returning from the IL in June. Pham hasn't been much better. Pham hitting 132. He's actually been worse. Smaller time span, but he's hitting 132 with a 464 OPS in the last 14 days. So obviously Grisham and Pham, they were at the top of the order, 1-2, or someone was hitting leadoff and the other was hitting fifth or sixth. Now they're both at the bottom of the order with Frazier coming in because Frazier's getting on base more. He's making more contact consistently, just even going back to this Sunday game. Where's Tommy Pham? He led off and he struck out 3 times in the first, the second, and the sixth, ground out to third. 0 for 4 for him, 1 for 5 in that position because Mateo came in and pitched it in the 8th. But just offensive struggles. When Tatis is out, it makes the lineup shorter. And then you compound that with Grisham and Pham struggling, that makes it a lot shorter. So definitely not what you want to see. Jake Marisnick made his first start on Sunday. You're not going to get offense from him. I think we knew that going in. He struck out looking, hit by pitch, then strikeout. So not a memorable day for him. He made a good play in center, but he played left when Grisham came in. But that's not who Marisnick is. He's not good. That's not what the Padres got him for. We got him for late inning defensive replacement or spot starts and kind of being like a Manuel Margot. People that are diehard fans and you watch Margot play, he wasn't great with the bat. There were spurts, obviously, like there is seemingly with every player, but he was there for defense. And that's kind of what made him easy to trade, I think, because he just didn't have it with the bat. So that's kind of, I think, what you're going to get out of Marisnick, a valuable bench piece. Mailbag question. I did want to get to that. At Ernest X on Twitter, he replied to our mailbag tweet. He asked, assuming he's done for the rest of the year, can this team get far without Fernando Tatis Jr. this season? Well, Ernesto, I believe that's its name. First off, I don't think that's smart to assume that he's done for the rest of the year because Fernando Tatis Jr. is a freak of an athlete. And assuming that he's done for the rest of the year just because he suffered a subluxation when he suffered that a few times already this year and he's come back strong, I think is just kind of foolish. So I'm not going to go with that question and assume that he's out for the year because I just don't think that he is. He has his mindset on playing, and he knows that the Padres don't have a great chance of winning the World Series if he's not playing. Ha-Seong Kim's great defensively, but he's not great consistently with the bat. Had a great game Sunday, but that's not who he is, on a consistent basis. So the Padres don't have a great chance, if we are assuming that he's out, to get far without Tatis. They're going to be the playoffs? Probably, because Kim, again, he's great defensively. And the offense is talented enough to survive without him, but to go deep in the playoffs and to have a guy absent from the lineup who leads the NL in homers is a big absence. And so, no, I don't think they'd be able to survive that, especially with the trade deadline gone. It's not like you can go upgrade and get someone. And it's not like they would either because they have Ha-Seong Kim. They have Jake Cronenworth. So that's my answer to that. Thank you for the question. Again, if you have anyone has mailbag questions, just hit us up at Talking Friars on Twitter. You can do in the comments on YouTube or on Instagram. Thanks for that again. One last thing here as we hit about 34 minutes here. Ken Rosenthal, I did want to get to him. I spoke with Ken Rosenthal via email today. Asked if he could come on the podcast. He did not come on. I said I wanted to ask him one question, and he responded to me. He said that he thought that, the one question that I was going to ask him was referring to the Scherzer stuff, and it is, but what he wrote in his column was not what I was going to ask him. So hopefully Ken's okay with me saying this. It wasn't like it was some like big, conversation where it felt like he didn't want me to talk about it because he didn't reveal anything to me, to be quite honest. I'll tell you, my question was to ask, obviously, did he check with any Padres sources about how close they were or not close, obviously, to getting Max Scherzer from the Washington Nationals? And, because if he would have said yes, I don't think he would have tweeted it, because saying that they were close to acquiring Max Scherzer from the Nationals, the Padres obviously weren't. Their front office was like, what? When they saw the tweet, they were wondering why was that out there. They weren't close. They hadn't spoke to the Nationals for 7 to 8 hours when that tweet came out about Scherzer. So, so I asked him again, did you check with any Padres sources before tweeting it out? Rosenthal said, I do not ever get into sources. Again, what I wrote stands as my response. And I respect that. I respect that he's not going to give his sources, but that's not what I was really asking him. I wasn't asking him to give his sources, like if he spoke to like a specific person in the front office he spoke to. I was just asking, did you speak to any Padres source? And it was a yes or no question. And he did not answer no. He did not answer yes. And really, him not saying yes really means no, that he didn't check with Padres sources. Saying I do not ever get into sources, all he had to do was say yes or no. Again, I wasn't asking for the specific source. I was just asking if he had any Padres sources that he spoke to with knowledge of the situation. And he said, I don't get into sources. So that tells you all you need to know. The answer is no, he didn't check. I obviously don't know that for a fact, but reading through the tea leaves, based on what he responded to me, the answer is no, that he didn't. I think that he was used by a national source or Scott Boras person, if Scherzer wanted to go to LA over San Diego. But I think it was a national source, gave it to Rosenthal and said, yeah, we're close to acquiring, the Padres are close to trading for Max Scherzer from us. And what that did was it got the Dodgers to panic. Andrew Friedman, admitted that. It got the Dodgers to call up Mike Rizzo in Washington and say, we'll give you our top 2 prospects, Keibert Ruiz and Josiah Gray, and 2 more prospects. What a package that would be. And just give us Trey Turner for another year after this year. And that's a deal done. We don't want him pitching for our rival San Diego Padres when we still play them this year, and we could see him in a 1-game wild card. So I think the Nationals used the Padres, and I think that sucks. I think that's disrespectful. I think that's kind of a shame for the Nationals organization to use another organization to get more prospects. I understand their job is to get the best possible return, but to negotiate through the media, which is essentially what they did using Ken there. And Ken is spot on, most of the time, 99.5% of the time, he's right. He was right on every other move after that, this trade deadline. So I still kind of trust him, but I don't think he checked with any Padres sources. I think that the Nationals used the Padres by saying that they were close, and then that got the Dodgers to panic and them to call and give them a better package that the Padres were, because the Padres are probably willing to say, here's Robert Hassel, or here's Mackenzie Gore, and we're going to get Scherzer back. But they didn't want to include 2 of the top 4, Campusano, Hassel, Gore, Abrams. They didn't want to include 2 of those. I think just 1. And the Dodgers included 2 of their top 2 prospects. So that would have been us including Gore and Abrams, and that was not going to happen. So that's the Scherzer situation. And yeah, so that's the episode. Padres, they're now 61-47. Again, 6.5 back in the division. Didn't gain ground on the wild card because the Dodgers and the Giants both won today. They have an off day. They have 2 off days this week. One to Monday, one on Thursday. They play Oakland for 2 in Oakland. Come back to Petco, play Arizona over the weekend. And they have an easy schedule coming up, and that's something that I think that they really need to take advantage of, because obviously, like I mentioned, the Padres, September schedule, it is definitely a gauntlet. Just bringing up the schedule here, obviously here now we're into August. They split this series with the Rockies. They have 2 at Oakland, then Arizona, then they host Miami, at Arizona for 4, at Colorado for 3. So that's 13 straight games after those 2 games in Oakland against non-playoff teams. They need to have a winning record from that. I get you're without Tatis. The earliest he would be able to come off the injured list, I believe, is next Monday. So not tomorrow, this coming Monday, but the Monday after that. What would that be? August 9th when they play Miami here. That's the earliest. I don't know if he's going to come off then. He could come off a couple days after, just because it was sore. It was more sore than it was in the previous times he separated the shoulder, partially dislocated it. So that's something to look forward to. But look, I think they're still in a good spot because they have 19 games against the Dodgers and Giants in September. But there's no denying that they need to win these series against these non-playoff teams, because I don't expect the Dodgers and the Giants to lose series against teams they're playing. So that's that. We'll have a couple guests this week, I believe, later this week. This was episode 49 of the Talking Friars podcast. I'm Ben Fadden. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, let's go Padres.